Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Photo Notes. My name is Tony Colangelo, and I'm here, of course, with my good friend, Wayne Capilli. Good morning,
Morning.
Wayne.
Good morning.
Hi. After we recorded our last session, Wayne and I chatted for a bit, and I'm always so impressed with the depth of Wayne's background in Photoshop and all the little things that he does that he's already shown on a number of videos. And I thought, you know something? Let's take advantage of that. Let's have some fun, and let's do a video just on our favorite tools and our favorite Photoshop tips and techniques. And that's what we're going to be doing here today, right, Wayne?
Absolutely. And because also what happens is we have to take pictures, and taking pictures is just really half of what we do to produce a photograph. So,
oh, without question.
Yeah. So the other half of producing a photograph is the post-processing. So most post-processing is done with Photoshop.
Absolutely. And I know you've got something right off the top that you wanted to start with. So why don't we jump on over to you?
Okay. So the first thing that we have to do, and it is a have to, is we have to change the presets in our curves adjustment. If you push auto, it does something, but we really don't know what it does. Like, on this particular picture, it just made things lighter, and we don't know, and we really don't know why. So what I suggest we do is go to this little area where it says auto.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do the auto options. And what happens is the default right now is to enhance the brightness and contrast. Right. But for real estate photography, we want to do fine dark and light colors. We want to snap to neutral tones. And once we do this, we just save it as a default. And
okay.
And then we do okay. So now when we do auto, it just makes it look a lot better. It searches for the highlights and the shadows and snaps it and brings the colors up. So this brings up that we have a much faster starting point when that's
and it looks like that it's still a twilight, whereas the last one looks like it was almost a daytime shot.
Right. That's because it was looking for the highlights and shadows, and it wasn't snapping the blacks and controlling the whites. So the first thing to do is to change your auto settings on your curves adjustment.
On your curves. Okay. That's a good one.
So what do you got?
For me, Wayne, my favorite tool in all of Photoshop is the opacity slider, believe it or not. It helps in so many different ways. So not only can we take advantage of it in our flash ambient blending, where just using the opacity slider can give us a deliverable shot. And I have a couple of photos here for blending as an example, and most of our viewers will be familiar with this. But here we have an ambient that's got loads and loads of color issues. So not a very good shot here. I'm not sure this is a deliverable shot. If we take a look at our flash layer, that is absolutely nuked. This is certainly not a deliverable shot. But by just using the opacity slider, we can bring the amount of pixels that we need from the layer underneath, from the clean flash layer, to address a bunch of the color cast issues from the ambient layer.
Nice.
And then to get the view, we can either put a mask and then paint over in black to get that view a little bit darker from our nuked flash layer, or we can just go into darken mode to bring those darker pixels from our window pull up to the surface. So right off the top, the opacity slider has always been key for me. And I use it actually pretty strategically. I want to give you another quick example. So here, as you can see, I tend to like just a tad more contrast in my photos. And when I discovered that, one of the things that I used to do was I would go in add a little bit more contrast. I'd look at the photo, I'd realize that it wasn't enough, and then I would add a little bit more and add a little bit more. And I thought, you know something, this is silly. Why don't I just add a whole bunch at the beginning and then use the opacity slider once, right?
Yeah.
So here, I've added way, way more contrast than I would typically use. So I'll take the opacity slider, I'll take it to 0, and then very, very, very slowly just adjust the photo to taste. And I'm using the opacity slider as almost like a refinement tool. And so between blending and refining or pulling back, if I've gone too far on any sort of adjustment, whether it be contrast, hue, and saturation, the opacity slider is it for me. That's my favorite tool.
That's great. And then and you use the opacity. I mean, you actually use the opacity slider when we did our thing for blending HDR and Flash.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And it's just a big, big time saver. So let's flip back to you. What have you got next?
Okay, my favorite and most important thing that I do for my workflow is Command Shift Option E.
So that's Control Alt Shift E for a PC.
Right. So I do Command Shift Option E, as opposed to Command Shift E, which takes all the layers and flattens it. See how that flattened out? We don't want to do that. We want to just take all the visible layers and all the stuff that you're working on, and we want to make it into a flat layer. So Command Shift Option E takes all the things, keeps all the work underneath it, and gives it a weight, kind of a weight state where the work is at the present time.
So really that combination of keys gets you a new layer. It's called a stamp visible layer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now that we have this, now you can do things like I did a simple sky replacement, and then I did another sky replacement. So the normal way of doing this is once you have this, you have to flatten it again, and then you have a new file. So you have all these things you have to do to make this simple change. So here, once I have like this particular sky replacement, I will do another Command Shift Option E. Yeah. And now I have the base layer with the cloud replacement, and then I'm going to do a sky replacement. And then if I want to use this as a file, I do Command A, which selects it all. Yeah. Copying it, and then Command N, which makes a new file. Yeah. We're going to create that, and we're going to paste it. So now it's just a fast way of making a new file from the work that you've been doing, and you can do that over and over again.
Right. So Command Option Shift E or Control Alt Shift E is your favorite Photoshop thing.
Yes. Okay. But there is one caveat about that. What happens is when you do Command Shift Option E, that actually makes it a pixel layer. So it does increase your file size. So you don't want to do it a lot. But as you're working, if you need to, do specific like dodging and burning and things like that, instead of trying to work on the bottom layer or something, this is just a faster way of doing it.
Right. Okay. And which is applicable in real estate work, right?
Yep. Yeah. Because what happens is, again, this particular image, let's say that they wanted a different sky, or they wanted they wanted changes. So instead of all your work is there that you can cull from, as opposed to taking that flattened layer and trying to manipulate that. Right. Okay, great. Okay, what do you got?
Okay, Wayne, my next thing is just a quick and easy sort of thing about content-aware cloning, and something that you can do for simple things like dust spots, but you could also do it for very complicated things. So here in this photo, where clearly I'm doing a flash layer, I made a decision in post that I wanted to show this more of this brick, and it's a very, very busy space. It's an artist's office, as you can tell from the easel. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could show more of this brick? So I'd make just a selection around it. And normally this would be a really big headache to clone out and sample the bricks above it and then make sure it's the right luminance levels, blah, blah, blah. But this is a great trick that if you make your selections and then you hit Shift and the F5 button together, gets you this fill, content aware fill box. Here are the numbers and the buttons that I've checked. And then if you just click OK, it takes a second and it's gone.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And if we zoom in on it, we can see in this case, yeah, is it 100% perfect? No. But think about all the time that you saved. And the only thing that I see here that's wrong is the grout line right there, which is a simple taking the clone tool, sampling here, and then running it over this grout line, and you're done. You're done in a few seconds rather than spending 2, 3, 4 minutes sampling from up here and then cloning down here.
Yeah, and even cloning would be a mess.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But certainly for quick and easy, that's one way to do it. And it'll take care just the same way that other cloning tools and tricks work in Photoshop. It'll work on the easy stuff, but it's amazing how it addresses the complicated stuff too. So that's something that I really, really like, a little trick. The other one that I wanted to show you, Wayne, is this one, where we can, I did a food photography shoot for a vegan restaurant here in Victoria. And in setting up this shot, you see this leaf from this plant that's kind of overhanging, and it's sort of getting in the background and getting in the way of a clean, all these shavings of Parmesan are sort of have this leaf in the background. So again, this would be a nightmare to try to clone and get in between all of these shavings because they're blurred and everything. And I wanted that blurred effect. So one way to get rid of it, and this is one of my favorite selection tricks, is just to make a selection around the thing that I'm wanting to remove, and then going to select color range. And we have our color range box here. I set the fuzziness to 40. I'm not quite sure what fuzziness is or does, but I landed on 40 as the number. I've got the selection radio button and the preview is none. And what you do is it gives you an eyedropper tool, and you can select the colors that you want removed within the selection. So here, if we really zoom in, we can see a darker green here. So if we click on that, all the pixels that are this shade of dark green are selected. If we want to select more colors, then hold down the Shift key, and here we see a lighter green. So if I click on that, you'll see that the white pixels, which represents the colors that I clicked on, are being selected. There's a lighter green right up there, and we see even more pixels selected. We have this green, we have this sort of dark green over here, a lighter green there. And once you stop seeing all these shades of green, more white coming up, that basically means that you're done. So you click OK, and there's a very complicated selection.
Nice.
And from here, you can take your cloning tool, make sure that you have a very soft edge to it. You can find your reference point. Let's use this grain here, this streak of grain in the wood. Sample it there, and then go right through it. Let's try that again, right up there. And as you can see, if we do Control or Command D to get rid of the selection, that leaf is basically gone, and it's just a little bit of cleanup for the colors that we did not select.
Yeah, and it kept.
Right
And
in
I like the
there.
way I like the way it kept the streakiness of the cheese falling. That's nice.
Yeah, falling, and it's still blurring. And I mean, I probably should have used a very, very small amount of pixel feathers, or feathered a small amount, like 0.2 or something. But I mean, select color range has been a godsend for me in terms of making really complicated selections.
Okay, so we actually have a final image, and we've done all the color correcting. We've done, we've corrected the verticals, and we want to put our logo onto a photograph. And normally when people want to put their logos or anything on their photograph, they open up a Photoshop file or whatever, a GIF file, whatever, that's on their computer, and then they import it into their photograph.
Right.
Instead of doing that, there's actually a feature in Photoshop called libraries, where you can use things that you use over and over again and simply put it on a library. And it is library. My logo is right here. And I'm simply just going to drag it and place it. And there's my logo.
So you've got like a vector file or something like that there? Or?
This actually, yes. Well, this wasn't in a vector file. This was just a JPEG file that I converted over to put it in the library.
Right. Cool. So you can change the size of it too.
You can change the size of it. You can do different things. You can have different things on it. So I have my actual copyright thing, text, that we can put in and size it. And
cool.
Libraries.
So that's one of your favorites as well.
That's one of my favorites as well.
Cool. Okay, Wayne, I think that's it. I hope, folks, you've gotten a bunch of useful nuggets today. As always, thank you for joining us. If you have topics that you'd like Wayne and I to tackle in future videos, please don't hesitate to drop us a note at our emails, which Wayne will post at the end of the video. And again, thank you. We'll see you next time. Wayne, as always, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week.
You have a good week as well. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.